Hi everyone, this is Dan and the Future Holds Crypto. So we had a very interesting week again. As the previous week was also very good, this week was also an evolution from a good evolution from the past week. So probably you're gonna ask me why, and because it's all related to Bitcoin. But definitely, I think this is very important. I think that Bitcoin leads the market if Bitcoin does a very good job, and it grows, and basically the others will follow, even if they lag, even if they bleed for the moment. So basically, last week we had Bitcoin reached $16,000. This week we already have touched the $16,500. And if we look in the past, we have only that. Let's see in the past from a weekly perspective, which weeks have touched or actually breached this price. So we have 1, 2, 3. This already barely touched it. I'm not sure if I should count it, but 4. Let's say 5, 4 or 5. So basically, in the history of entire Bitcoin, we only have 4 or 5 weeks that have breached this price. So I would believe, by the way, disregard this this pattern. I was playing around with a similar pattern from the past in terms of trying to get a point in time that's similar to this, but disregard it for now. I'm really going to leave it there to see what happens and how it matches that. Fortunately, we are still on the upside. So basically, we are in a bullish territory. And you know my stance on crypto. We had very bullish news from the beginning of the year. We had banks accepting crypto. We had being able to trade custody crypto. We have the first crypto bank being approved. We have PayPal that got into this. So I think PayPal is underestimated in this part because it has access to 350 million users, and PayPal is trusted. I mean, yeah, I think people think of PayPal, we know of it, whatever. They underestimate it because they're used to it. They're used to PayPal, but I think this will be a very important thing. And actually, recently, this week, they extended their support for crypto in terms of to the customers they can use this service for crypto. So definitely, I think this is very, very good news. It will have a very big impact, and PayPal, I told you, is trusted. I think people will trust PayPal much more than a crypto exchange. Also because it's also backed in I think it's $250,000, but it's also they have insurance, and a lot of other exchanges don't have insurance. So if anybody goes into your exchange, or a hacker goes and steals your crypto, or not your crypto, but the crypto from the exchange, which happens to be your crypto, they are not obliged by law to do anything about it. So that kind of sucks. Well, PayPal probably will have better trust here. Not probably, I'm pretty sure of it. So that's another very good bullish news for this year. So I think that the markets in general are looking fine right now. I think that we might very well be at the beginning of the bull market, or actually not. We may be past the beginning of the bull market, but the more spectacular part of the bull market, because if Bitcoin gets closer to its previous all-time high, that's when things start to happen from a historical point of view. And I've seen a lot of people that are actually very sure. They don't understand what's happening to the alts, especially, for example, XRP. And people are saying that, wow, what's going on? I mean, Bitcoin is already on the move. What's going to happen with XRP? It doesn't do anything. But remember that XRP in the past has proven to actually have to have some lag there. So from my perspective, I think this is a good thing because it extends the accumulation phase. So you have more chances to buy in. So basically, also try to remember this. Buy when the price is low, sell when the price is high. Don't do the other way around, which is actually something very common to most of the people. Most of the people get in too far away in the process when the prices are high, and when the prices go down, they panic and they sell. So basically, they lose money. So it's very important to get this straight, to understand the market cycles. Please watch my previous videos for the market to understand the market cycles, the accumulation phases, what smart money do in general. So I think that we are in a good place right now. I think that XRP still has some accumulation phase left in it. We might be closer to something that will breach in an upward direction. But remember something, because I have seen a lot of people that are not patient anymore. Last time, look in 2016, when we came close to the when we first touched the all-time high, or came very close to the all-time high, previous all-time from 2013. So it was December 2016. That's when it came close to the previous all-time high. I'm talking about Bitcoin. XRP had its first major pump in March and then in May, and I consider this basically the first alt season, and then this was the second one. So we had one in March and April, March through May, and another one in December. And actually, this was bigger. And please try to remember something, because people are looking sometimes on the percentage wise, and if you look here, it looks quite small, right? It looks small, but it's not that small. I hate this representation because I think it's not realistic, and it actually people are not understanding the huge scale of the first pump. So please go in logarithmic and look at this pump. So this was 75x. This pump was 75x from March through May. So, and the second pump in December was actually only 16x. Compare 75x with 16x, right? So that's why I prefer logarithmic much more than this one, because it's actually very misleading for most of the people that don't have the eye for this. So 75x, 16x, the first pump here, it's very important, right? I'm not saying it will happen again, because historically speaking, XRP did only once have two alt seasons, but people are bashing XRP because it went down a lot. And if you look at it, and I'm not trying to defend it or anything, but you have to understand it. I don't think that people that are blaming it understand what XRP has done in the past. So yeah, it went down 93%, but I think that's to some degree that's irrelevant, because look at this, between 93% and this price here, 99%, right? It's a few it's very hard to understand there, or to make sense of this number. So look at this. This is much easier to understand, and the logarithmic part is actually easier to perceive, because it also has the visual that is closer to reality. I mean, this pump is actually much bigger than this pump, right? 75x, again, 75x. And XRP mostly kept the price from the first pump, because the first pump went to this, and basically somewhere here we managed to if you see, we managed to keep it, to keep most of it, right? So it's not that bad. We managed to keep the first 75x. We lost the second one, the 16x, whatever. In terms of crypto, is not as important. Remember that in total, XRP the last time actually went up 608x, right? If you're not impressed by that, I'm well, I can't say anything else. But yeah. So, first thing to remember, to recapitulate, is that I've seen a lot of people that are saying that this time XRP might pump faster than the last time. I also have to consider, and you know what I'm saying in this channel, I'm trying to consider more possibilities and be prepared psychologically for not only one, and not to be disappointed. I'm trying to see different perspectives, and in the bullish territory, I would say that if I still have, I think that Bitcoin has to be a little bit closer to the all-time high for XRP to have a pump, if it does have two pumps as in the last time, because in the previous part it didn't have two altcoin seasons or two pumps like we did in the 2017. Maybe it doesn't do that. However, if it does, I still believe that Bitcoin has to be closer to the all-time high as it was in the past, and with that we should be ready, at least mentally, to be prepared to wait for an XRP to lag for a couple of months before it does a pump, if it does it, if it does it in two stages. So that's something that I definitely wanted to go through. I still think that we are in good territory. Now I wanted to show you two videos in terms of XRP news, not XRP news, but crypto news in general. And I had some interesting videos in the past with IMF and other events, and central bank digital currencies, and the importance of this thing throughout the world, even if it's the evolution of the centralized system, because the central bank digital systems are the currencies are not the evolution of the decentralized systems. It's something we are watching. The centralized system evolution clash with the birth of decentralized systems and how they evolve, and it will be interesting to watch this. But definitely, I think that at least for the short term, the central bank digital currencies are very important to the evolution of cryptocurrencies, and at least from image perspective, because people will definitely be more open to buy digital currencies after they see the central digital currencies in place. So I think that's really, really important, and it will be actually, I think that, you know, we talked also about the Great Reset. That's we have, it's not a tinfoil hat thingy. It sounds like it. I know it sounds like it, but I've shown you very reliable sources. I've shown you videos from the royal family in United Kingdom. I've shown you videos from IMF. I've shown you with the information from World Bank and a lot of other sources that the World Economic Forum. So basically, they are talking about the global financial reset, and not only that, but I think the central bank digital currencies will play a very important role, and how they integrate with the cryptocurrencies will also play a very important role. So first of all, before going into this video, because I'm gonna let you watch it without commentaries while the video is going on, I want to first go through this part. So, who is Brian Brooks? Brian Brooks now is the acting controller of the currency. So, Brian Brooks is an important representative of the US government, and that's why I wanted to make this very clear before getting into this video. So, what is the OCC? OCC is an independent branch of the US Department of Treasury. Charters regulates and supervises all national banks and federal savings associations, as well as federal branches and agencies of foreign banks. The OCC carries out its missions by issuing banking rules and regulations and providing legal interpretations and guidance on banks' corporate decisions that govern their practices. Visiting and examining the banks it oversees, is evaluating applications for new bank charters or branches, for other purposes, proposed changes in the corporate structures of banks or their activities, and from foreign banks that wish to operate in the United States under an OCC charter, imposing corrective measures when necessary on OCC governed banks that do not comply with laws and regulations or that otherwise engage in unsafe or unsound practices, protecting consumers by making sure banks give fair access and equal treatment to customers and comply with consumer banking laws. So basically, the OCC is an important, very important branch of the U.S. Treasury, an important department of the U.S. Treasury. Brian Brooks is a very important figure in this regard. His actions have have weight. That's why it's very important for you to understand what he's saying in this video. So I'll let you watch the video and then we'll talk afterwards.
Or have caused the company to abandon once promising projects on the verge of becoming reality. I understand that the determination of whether a token is sold as a security is a difficult one. It requires an idiosyncratic analysis that doesn't produce clear guideposts for entrepreneurs to follow. The challenge of discerning a clear legal line is especially difficult with respect to new forms of business and novel technologies. Entrepreneurs may be forced to choose between unpalatable options, either expending their limited capital on costly legal consultation and compliance, or foregoing their pursuit of innovation due to fear of becoming subject to an enforcement action, or, as some projects do, just completely avoiding the United States. That's why I proposed a regulatory safe harbor earlier this year. The safe harbor would provide network developers with a 3-year grace period, exempted from the registration provisions of the federal securities laws, but subject to certain disclosure requirements and subject to the anti-fraud provisions of the securities laws. This safe harbor would allow them to facilitate participation in and the development of a functional or decentralized network. And I think that it would be a positive step forward. I have received a range of reactions to the proposal, and my goal is to publish a revised proposal in the near future. But there's much more to be done on issues like custody and Bitcoin-based product approvals. I hope that the Commission will adopt a more open approach to innovation. I fear otherwise will drive some of the brightest young minds this country has to overseas countries that are more accepting of innovation, and that would not be a good thing for any of us. I thank you for listening to me, and I look forward to hearing from my fellow panelists. And speaking of innovation, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Brooks, who has been a leader in encouraging the industry he regulates to embrace new technologies, and also, I think, encouraging other regulators to think more creatively about how we can adapt our rules and regulatory framework to modern technologies. Brian, it's all yours.
Hester, thanks so much, and thank you for having me today. It is an enormous honor for, I think, for Brent and Paul and me to share the platform with Hester, who probably is the most famous person in the world of crypto, probably more famous than Satoshi Nakamoto. She has done more, I think, to push this idea than anybody else in government. So let me do this. I'm going to take a step back for a minute. So I think Hester did an amazing job of walking us through some of the core legal issues that you confront as you think about decentralized networks. But let me take a step back and just ask the question: why does anybody care? Like, why are we doing this? So I'm going to propose several reasons for this. First is, there is a deep thesis, which is borne out in the growth of the internet, which is that networks are more inclusive, more efficient, faster, cheaper, and more resilient than command and control structures. And I think almost anybody at a FedSoc event is going to share that basic impulse, because I think most of us believe that markets are a better way for organizing economies than central planners. If you believe in that impulse, then you're probably going to believe that networks are a more efficient way of distributing just about anything than is some central distribution node, right? So the reason that I care about this at the OCC is that banks are kind of the ultimate central intermediaries of finance. Banks are, as I sometimes say in speeches, they're like the post office once was to information. There was a time when the only way to distribute information around the country was to write a bunch of letters, put them in envelopes, send them to a central office called the post office, and that central office would then be in charge of distributing those letters out to the intended recipients. Only we all know how that worked, right? It cost money. It took 5 days for a letter to get from New York to California, and a non-trivial number of times you discovered that the letter carrier had lost the mails or had buried the mail in their backyard. It happened in a number of cases or whatever. That was a highly inefficient way of distributing mail, but it was the only way of communicating information at a time when technology did not exist to allow people to communicate directly. Then along came the internet and email was built and all of the cell phone messaging apps that we all have and everything else. And nobody in the world writes letters anymore as a result. They send messages for free and they send messages with all kinds of features on them. You can send video, you can copy multiple recipients, you can send things in a secure way or a private way or an encrypted way or whatever. And we all intuitively understand that networks now are a better way of transmitting information. What crypto is about, and I'll talk about central bank digital currency as a species of this in a moment, but what crypto is about is the idea that transmitting value is not fundamentally different from transmitting information. We now have a technology that can simultaneously maintain ledgers algorithmically, so you no longer need a bank clerk wearing eye shades to maintain ledgers in a book. But it can also do things peer-to-peer. So it can maintain a ledger, but also transact value directly without the need for any intermediation. This is just something that wasn't possible 20 years ago, but now it is. And blockchain is essentially the internet for the communication of value, much the same way that the first internet was an internet for the transmission of information. So we're here today talking a little bit about central bank digital currency. And I want to slightly reframe the discussion to sort of say there are two ways forward for an internet-based transmission of value. One way is the government can build it. Now, this has happened in various places, particularly among our geopolitical competitors. China has actually done two major things to build an internet of value at the government level. One is just a few weeks ago, China announced the issuance of something called the e-renminbi, which is an internet version of the Chinese yuan. Their theory is that although the dollar may be the global reserve currency, an aggressive muscle flexing China can start chipping away at the dollar by building an easier to use currency. It may not be as stable in value. It may or may not be a true reflection of the strength of the Chinese economy for various reasons, but it's super easy to use because it can transact directly across an internet transmission portal, whereas dollars have to go through bank clearing organizations. That's one of the things that they're thinking. The other thing that China has done is they have captured more than 51% of the mining capacity on the Bitcoin blockchain, which means that the very first internet of money, which was the Bitcoin blockchain about 10 years ago, is now essentially owned by China. So as a country, we now face a geostrategic competitiveness issue, which is, do we in the United States want to own Internet 2.0 in the same way that we own Internet 1.0? One of the reasons that information and commerce flows as freely as it does over the internet is that we didn't give it away to China at a time when we well might have. We made policy choices to incubate a network-based economy in the US, and the result has been good and bad, I will admit, but it has been massive economic growth for the United States by allowing people to build on top of these networks, to self-publish, to sell things quickly, to eliminate startup costs, and do all the good things that the original internet brought us. Our leadership in finance is nothing like assured at this point because we have yet to embrace networks. And so now we're having a discussion in this country about two alternative choices. One is, we can be a relatively slow follower to China and build our own central bank digital currency. So again, China issued its central bank digital currency about 6 weeks ago. We are talking about the possibility that our Federal Reserve could issue our own digital dollar 4 years from now. So consider that. We're going to have a 4.5-year time lag in slow following our most important global competitor into the world of electronic money. Normally, we don't want to be the slow follower. We want to be the leader or at least a fast follower. So what's the alternative to the government building a set of sort of government-run payment rails built on a central bank token? The alternative is to do what we've always done best in this country, which is to unleash the innovative, risk-taking private economy to build networks. And the good news is they've already done that. So we have a number of functioning stablecoins in the United States, which are backed by dollars held in US banks, which transact over the internet. So they are dollars in the sense that all of them are fully redeemable for money held in banks. There's no question about price volatility because they are redeemable at par for $1. But they're programmable in much the same way that you can send messages on Signal and WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and your text messages, right? So they have all of those capacities, except that you're transmitting value and not information. These things exist today. And so as a country, we have a choice about, do we want to double down on a government monopoly like China did? Two problems with that. One is government monopolies are generally bad, and two is we're way slow out of the gate on that. Or we can do what this country does best, harness our innovative market economy and embrace the concept that there will be lots of private networks for delivering dollars in different ways, much as we all have multiple messaging apps on our phone, which allow us to send information in multiple different ways that are all useful to us for various reasons. At the OCC, the question that we have to deal with is banks are generally the transmitters of value in our society. So the question is, can banks support stablecoin projects? We've said yes, they can. They can hold reserve deposits and provide ancillary services to ensure that these stablecoins out there comply with consumer protections, don't result in bank runs and the like. Then the question is, can banks provide other normal services to cryptocurrencies? For example, can they provide custody for people who hold these assets? Again, we've said yes, they can. We don't have a view about whether given cryptocurrencies are valuable or not, or whether they're risky or not. But like any other volatile and risky financial asset, banks have always provided a custodial service, and we've said they can do that as well. There remain other questions to confront, and we'll confront them over time. But I would just close by saying the most important things that are necessary if crypto and stablecoins and some kind of digital dollar are going to exist, the most important questions are two. First, we must commit to a real and enforceable way of ensuring that crypto does not become a vector for money laundering or terrorism financing. And so we must understand that this kind of financial exchange is subject to the same kinds of national security and law enforcement issues that any other kind of value exchange is, right? These things will not work and we won't get their utility if they become vectors for criminality. So that is a critical first gating factor. But there's an equally important second gating factor if these things are to have value and grow the economy. And that is, we must understand that decentralization is the point, right? If we had embraced listservs and intranets in the early 90s, we wouldn't own the future the way that we do now on the internet. So too here, permissionless blockchains ultimately are the future in this world. Now, there are individual companies and networks that will have their closed loops, much as companies in the late 80s and early 90s had their internal intranets and listservs, and those have their place. But at the end of the day, if what we're trying to do is own the internet-enabled decentralized future, we need to understand that decentralization is equally important. So those are the two conundrums. We must have real law enforcement to protect our national security, while also understanding that scale requires decentralization. So look forward to the discussion. I'm now going to turn it to my friend Brent McIntosh, the Undersecretary of the Treasury, who is a major voice on these issues and convener of all the agencies. So Brent, I'll kick it over to you.
Thanks, Brian. Delighted to be here today.
So I hope that that actually synced in, and maybe you should watch it again because it's something really, really important. I mean, I don't know how this will be affected if a new administration comes in. We'll see. Probably will not be affected because it's something beyond the administration itself, from my perspective. So Brian Brooks makes very important points here, and he mentions some very key points. One of it is that he believes that a centralized system is not as efficient or as good as a decentralized system. So he's saying that it's not as good to have the government control this, issue it and control it, because they have a bad record on delivering stuff and controlling it. So historically speaking, it hasn't been very well. It hasn't gone very well. So that's key. Basically, he believes in decentralized system. He doesn't believe in issuing government control, CBDC. That's something that to be fair, I'm not sure if I actually expected this. And he makes another very interesting point. I mean, one thing that you need to understand here is that he actually mentioned China. He mentioned what China did in terms of issuing the digital yuan. He mentioned the risk that this actually brings to the dollar. He mentions that US is behind already. He also mentioned that if we go on the path of having a centralized system and having US delivering something like that, it will take too much and it will be too big of a difference in terms of when China managed to launch and US managing to catch up. So basically, it's already too late to follow China. So what he's proposing and he's thinking about is to leave this to the private sector and to leverage what US does best, leaving the private sector offer different technological advantages that will solve the problem, and having more than one solution, not to have something centralized. And that's actually very interesting, and I think it very much makes sense. But he also, by the way, mentioned that China managed to have more than 51% of the mining capacity of Bitcoin. He also talks about the Internet of Value, Internet 2.0, where you don't only transfer information, you transfer value. It wasn't possible until now. It is possible now with the current technologies that are emerging. I think few people grasp this, the importance of the Internet of Value. I think that people are usually thinking about their very small transactions that they are doing through Visa or over the internet and stuff like that, and I think, what? This is already happening. And I don't think they grasp the how big this is. So basically, he recognized that Bitcoin is a very important part or the start of the Internet of Value, that China has 51% and they control too much of this, which is the start of Internet of Value. And if they are trying to catch up with China now, they're not going to do a very good job if they let the government try to do that. So they're going to unleash the private sector to do this, or this is what he wants to do. I'm not sure if this will go through. Probably there will be a lot of things before this goes on, but definitely this makes sense. But he touches a lot of very interesting things that are are underlining what I have said a lot of times on my channel already. This is not some tinfoil hat moment. This is the beginning of the mass adoption. This is the beginning of the revolution in terms of technological evolution of the financial sector. This is a very interesting time to live in. This is an extremely big opportunity if you know how to profit from it. And by the way, this is not financial advice. I'm just a guy that's passionate about it and talks about it, and I'm trying to basically show my perspective on what's going on here. From my part, this is staggeringly clear. We'll see how things evolve, but definitely they are going in a very interesting direction. I will also leave you with a very short video on Brad Garlinghouse mentioning that they need regulatory clarity, and you know that we talked about this in the past. And to make a very short summary on it, basically Ripple and different people from Ripple mentioned officially a number of times already that the lack of regulatory clarity in US is affecting their business, and it's affecting how other companies are adopting or embracing their technology. And I think, and also remember that in United States, they don't have a common framework. So basically they will have to adapt from each state. That's one issue. But also the fact that only Bitcoin and Ethereum were given green light as non-securities. We also know that Ripple is going through a lawsuit that is taking forever. And if you watched my previous video, the dates, if they are real, are actually a joke in terms of 2023 for that lawsuit to end and to have a verdict. From my perspective, is a joke. Not sure what's going on there, but definitely it's not acceptable, especially if you're running a company. So that's why it's very important for Ripple to get this clarity and the regulatory clarity. And they actually mentioned a couple of times already that they want to move from US to a place that offered better regulatory clarity. So I think that this will be a interesting blow to US, and because Ripple is one of the biggest, maybe the biggest crypto company out there, in crypto infrastructure companies, maybe even the biggest. And it will be an image blow at least for US, and further on more than that. So I will let Brad Garlinghouse say what he has to say, and then we'll talk about it.
Just to kind of follow back question is, and is there kind of I think that would be big news in the crypto sphere? Are you?
We have not put a timeline out there. I don't know. I guess because you're asking, it's a fair question. I'll put 6 months within the next 6 months. I feel like we either need to have clarity or we need to move somewhere where there is clarity. And living in that kind of amorphous middle space is not a good place to be.
There you go, United States government.
So now you've seen it. What is interesting here is that he asked the host asked what is the timeline from Ripple moving from US. It's either the question took Brad by surprise, or he's not yet comfortable to make this public. But from my perspective, his hesitation is actually interesting, because if you're a CEO of a company and they're trying to move like that, you definitely need to have at least a couple of plans or a timeline. Maybe think about the roadmap. If this happens, I will move from US in 6 months. If this doesn't, or maybe if something else happens, I will extend with another 2 months. If nothing happens, definitely I'm gonna move from US and stuff like that. But definitely, I think that from this perspective, at that level, they should already have a very clear plan for something like that. So him hesitating, it's interesting. Either he knows something that he's not willing to share or not ready to share yet publicly, or something else. I don't want to speculate here, but definitely that pause there was a little bit interesting. So I will end this video with a reminder here. Well, you've seen that in the past, and if you're an XRP fan, in the past XRP was driven by Bitcoin, and not only XRP, all of the alts were driven by Bitcoin. There are a lot of theories here about XRP becoming something huge, and I'm not saying they're not right to some degree. Not to some degree. I do hope some theories are correct. I do hope that XRP will play a very big role, or an important role, in the evolution of the financial sector from a global perspective. I do believe that has a good chance of happening, but timing it, especially with this very complex system, with all of the politics, all of the regulatory clarity that is needed for this, it is very hard to predict something like that. And if people are saying something else, I don't think they're telling you the truth. So one thing that we could do is to look in the past and to see what XRP did in the past. And for the moment, all the price movements in crypto are based on speculation alone, not utility. So we have a lot of historical data. I mean, a lot in terms of crypto, not general markets, because we are still very young here, but definitely we have data that is based on the speculation alone. So what we can do now is to see from a historical point of view what speculation did and what is the prospect or the potential only from speculation alone. And that still looks good. But expecting for XRP to go through to spectacular prices, because it will become the cryptocurrency of the entire world, or the entire banking system in the world overnight, I'm not saying it won't happen, but I would, for the moment, try to keep my expectations realistic based on what it did in the past. If it does something like something spectacular and actually catches a very important role in the new financial system, well, that will be an interesting surprise to see. And maybe you should keep some XRP for that, a small percentage or a percentage of that. But that's what I wanted to say, and that's why I want to end this video. Thank you very much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe, and the notifications. Thank you very much for watching again, and see you in the next video.